Howdy everybody, it's Farmer Luke here, coming from you but not behind the table anymore, which is good. I've got some real life humans with me other than microgreens to talk to. I've got Geert, the founder and CEO of Farmwell, and we've also got Michelle here. So going to do a little bit of an interview today. Michelle's one of the cohort members as well, so we're just going to have a little chat and kind of just talk about well-being and growing at home and the crazy global pandemic and everything that's going on right now. So I guess we'll start with you, Michelle, and just tell us a bit about yourself, what kind of work you're in, how did you get into this kind of wellness and well-being kind of sphere?
So hi everyone, my name's Michelle. I've obviously got a Scottish accent. I'm also known as a Scozzie, a Scottish Australian, so you can call me that. But basically, I never planned to get into well-being or health and wellness. I actually worked in IT. And when I was introduced to the company that I'm a part of now, called Arbonne, I just had a very strong feeling about like the way we were going to look after ourselves in the future. I was a big believer in having a positive mind, and I think that's a part of well-being. And so when I first heard about Arbonne and what they were wanting to create in the future around having health and well-being products, I was like, you know what, there's something in this. So it was more, I didn't plan to get into it, it just sort of was an opportunity that came my way. And because I'd done a lot of work on my mindset, I realised that this was a good thing to start learning about.
Yeah.
So that's how I started 11 years ago, and now I've learned a lot more. That it's more than just your mind. There's other elements, but that's how I started.
Interesting. Yeah. I think a lot of us find ourselves kind of accidentally in this field as well. Yeah, it's nothing that I studied at university or even leaving school or anything like that. It was never really on my radar. I think just maybe the times and what's happening globally, it starts to pull us over.
I think also like I wasn't brought up, in Scotland talking about well-being. We were brought up on cans of fizzy juice and chips, meat, and that type of thing. So it just, I wasn't brought up with it. But sometimes, things come your path, and you just take a look at it and go with it.
What about you, G? How did you sort of stumble into starting an urban ag tech startup?
And a lot of what we do now at Farmwell is has well-being at the core and at the purpose of it. But actually, when we started Farmwell, the mindset was more zero waste and delivering something in a sustainable closed loop kind of way, where we would eliminate waste in the process and also avoid packaging. And make sure that we could deliver a product which was natural, was transparent, which we knew how it was grown, and it would actually deliver microgreens to the chef in a transparent, local, waste-free kind of way. I think we still carry that waste-free mindset and that value within Farmwell. I can see it with the box of the packaging that we've got now with the program. It's everything is being reused and stored through from a way that we can reuse it. But during the program, during our journey with Farmwell, we learned that people were getting more excited about getting involved and seeing it and actually learning about how it works. And on one end, we were struggling to ask the chef for money, and this is a different story. But on the other end, like people were always like really excited about what we're doing. Because it's and we learned that it's actually the connectivity to greenery and to nature makes people naturally feel better and feel better about themselves, but also feel more comfortable in their environment. And it's proven to uplift happiness.
Definitely.
And we learned from our conversations with people we connected with that they really enjoyed what a Farmwell represents and having fresh food and greenery around them. Not necessarily eating those yet or like consuming it or purchasing it, but we've learned about the well-being effect that a Farmwell could have. So
Definitely.
It's similar like you, not plans, but accidentally Farmwell rolled into more of an educational well-being.
Totally. Which I think is really important, and your comment there sort of about sometimes chefs like wanting fresh produce but not wanting to pay for it, and there can be a lot of buzz and hype around the wellness industry and farm to table or paddock to plate or food miles, and it becomes sort of a hashtag and a bit of a buzzword. But with that, it can get hard to kind of separate the good advice online from the kind of dodgy advice, and we have seen stories of that come out. So from your end, like how do you kind of sift through that and try and deliver content to your followers that's scientifically backed and is well researched and actually has a genuine sort of wellness benefit to society and to each other and things like that?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Luke, because I do think it's becoming cool to have the hashtag sustainability and well-being and wellness and all of that sort of stuff. And looking back over the years, the 11 years, like I sort of built a health and wellness business without social media. So I think for me, the first thing, not focusing on hype, but just focusing on you as an individual. Like I always ask myself the question, what more can I do for me? And I think that's the best place to start. And so when you were talking there, G, about like nature and the benefits coming out of the program around people are just enjoying seeing greens, like we are nature and we belong together. People and nature belong together. And growing up in Scotland, one of the most beautiful places on earth, and then now having the honour of living in Australia on the eastern beaches, like I think it's important that we always have that connection. So I think that's the first place to start. And then I find when I'm in that place, like I start to have a more open mind, and I start to sort of learn more. And I think as an individual, like everyone's going to be different, and everyone's well-being is going to be different, because there's certain things that I love around yin yoga and going running and or eating green or having green smoothies every morning, like that works for me, but it might not necessarily work for you.
Or my dad,
your
my
dad.
sort of like 60-odd-year-old stocky Italian, father who definitely is interested in sustainability and is currently building a home in the mountains that's solar panel and has his own rainwater. But you're never going to see him roll out a yoga mat.
Exactly.
And that's okay though,
And that's okay. So I think there's this, like, what I do in my business is I look at people as human beings and individuals and work out, well, the answers. Like, and I think connecting to nature brings that out. And so for me, it's just about, like, what's going to work for you. But I do know for a fact now that I've worked in Arbonne for 11 years, and we have scientists and nutritionists and naturopaths. Like, greens is like the most important thing in the world. Whether you're looking at it, whether you're in it, and whether you're eating it. So that's why, like, one of the things that attracted me to Farmwell was actually because every morning I have a green smoothie, and I have done for the last 3.5-4 years. Mainly because I went to see Tony Robbins, and he said every morning you have to start your day with greens, and I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to the big man. But basically what he was saying is, if you look at the animal kingdom, like the most powerful animal is a gorilla, and what do they eat? Greens. And so I was like, so like, but I think you need to go on that journey. That only happened to me, like, only had that light bulb like 3.5-4 years ago. But it's this, I think as individuals, it's being open to learn about the things that work for you, and being mindful about what foods and what things you're taking. Like, how do you feel before, how do you feel during, and how do you feel after? And that will determine how well you're going to be. And I think it's in a holistic, like, we're very much in Arbonne about holistic. So it's like a positive mind, good body, and even the products you're putting in your skin. So we sort of cater for all those different elements. But I think it's going inwards first to realise what is actually working for me and what's not, and where can I go to learn more. I think for me that's a bit of a long answer, but
that's great.
That's what comes to mind.
And I think the focus on that inwards, like, there's nothing more inwards than the food you eat, because that literally fuels your body, it fuels your mind, fuels your soul, your spirit. And so I guess you sort of almost answered the next question is, like, what role does food play in well-being and wellness? It's pretty key. It's sort of the beginning of it all, because if you don't have a healthy body, then your mind can't be healthy, your spirit can't be healthy, and then you're not in a healthy place to impact the world in a positive and beneficial way as well. Totally.
Another thing I learned from the big man Tony, he was like, it's actually more about energy.
Yeah.
So what you're putting in your mouth is going to determine what energy you have to show up in the world.
Yeah.
And so for me, running a large organization and wanting to serve other people and help people with their health, I thought, well, if I'm not putting the right things into my body, how can I be of service to myself, but then be in service to others?
Totally.
And ultimately, I believe like that's what life's all about. Like, I'm going to swear here, but it's maybe a bit, sort your own shit out and give back to others.
Yeah, totally.
And so how do you do that? You have to consume. So what I learned, and I have learned over the last sort of 3 to 4 years, is you become what you eat.
Yep. Totally.
So what are you going to choose?
Mm-hmm.
And how are you going to feel after you do that? So I just think I'm a massive believer in it, and I just think energy is everything.
Cool.
And if you can bring a positive energy to people and your business and your family and your friends and your work and actually feel good, then you're living a good life, you know?
Awesome. And I guess, G, that was probably central to you. Like, you started Far More with an idea to impact the world in a beneficial way, and there's a lot of sustainable initiatives that could have gone down, but you went down the one that involved food, in this case microgreens, and we're sort of expanding past that now. So was that part of your thinking, like I could do solar panels or I could do wind farms, but you went with food? Was there like a reason for that for you in particular?
Yeah, I think I try to follow my joy and do the things that bring me joy.
Yep.
And food and growing food and actually being connected to our food is actually something that I really value, and that brings me a lot of joy. And if it brings me joy, it's worth pursuing.
Yeah, cool.
And going back to grandparents and parents, like my granddad had a big greenhouse, was always growing his own tomatoes, and had a veggie patch and a big cherry tree. And my grandmother on the other side, she was very big on companion plantings. She had carrots and everything together in the same thing. So
that's in your childhood.
Yeah. So it's
really cool.
Kind of like pursuing Far More brought those feelings.
Yeah, cool.
Out again,
yeah, awesome.
And being connected to the earth and to the dirt and to the
the simple things, kind of
the simple things.
Yeah, back to the surface. Yeah, cool. So Michelle, how has your experience with the resilience program been so far? We're about sort of 7 weeks in now or so. So yeah,
I'm going to be really honest, I'm a little bit behind,
That's
but
okay.
I signed up for a challenge, so I'm well and truly getting that. I think when I first heard G, it was at a festival we both attended, and he was speaking, and for me, like, the initial reason for saying yes to the program, and I think it's good to cover this off because people come in for different reasons, was that when I heard G talk about like growing your own food and, you know, really thinking about what you're putting in your body. And then my grandparents had a veggie patch as well, so I think it brought back those feelings. You know, I just really saw it align really well with what I was teaching people in Arbonne around their well-being. And we have a whole 30-day program where we're actually teaching people to go back to, you know, pure and clean and unprocessed foods. So for me, I could see a really clear connection. If I'm coaching people in this program, then it'd be great to learn about Far More, where they get to grow their own greens and then actually be eating their food, you know, because it's very holistic. So again, coming back to that word. So my journey, like, I was super excited. I was actually really nervous. I was in like the perfect place of excitement and nervousness. In the middle. And I was like, because I am like the most basic person when it comes to like learning something like this. I've not grown up in that environment. I don't really know about aquaponics and hydroponics. I didn't even know those terms existed. So for me, I was like, I'm gonna take this on as a challenge, but also again, you know, I'm a big believer in, you know, passing on knowledge and sharing that. So I thought, if I can do this and share this with my network, then I can make a positive impact on other people. And so far it's been like, I've loved like the weekly check-ins. I've loved learning from different speakers. And again, it's just learning like that. I just feel like the plants, like if you're not growing, if you're not learning, you're never growing. And so I've enjoyed the guest speakers. I've enjoyed the videos because they're like really short, and you're very good in them as well. You're very good.
Thank you.
You're very enjoyable to listen to and watch. So I've loved the videos.
Good to know.
And yeah, manageable and just like little chunks. And you know, it's so far so good. I need to catch up a bit, but the great thing is, I think, you know, you're catering for different people at different stages and different knowledge levels.
Absolutely.
You know, people that are really passionate about it, that saw it straight away and was like, yeah, I've known about this for years, I want to get involved, but the speakers give them that added knowledge. Or you've got someone like me that literally doesn't have a clue to like, I'm going to take on this challenge and still feel okay and feel safe and I'm part of a community that's going to, you know, talk me through it. I've been like asking these questions and like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, and putting pictures up, and then not only you guys have helped me, but the rest of the community have chipped in and said, oh, Michelle, actually you probably want to do this. So it's an amazing community feel. It's obviously the way G spoke, like it comes from the heart, you know, it comes from a good place, and when you guys speak, it comes from the heart. And you know, I really believe if you're following joy and you've got something that means something, then that's always going to carry through the person that's been a part of it. So I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've got way more to learn and lots to do, but loved it.
Yeah, the learning never stops. Like I'm learning as I'm doing it. I started this journey sort of 5 years ago now, and I'm very much still feeling my infancy, yet somehow I'm still teaching people. And I guess that's the beauty of sustainability, is it's an ever evolving and ever like growing and learning experience. So there are people that I want to learn on that have been doing this for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And there are ones who'll be doing it for that long and learning from the ones past them. So I think there's a wonderful sort of cohesive sort of ecosystem there where even the younger people can start teaching the older people and vice versa as technologies emerge and maybe the way we need to approach things changes. Yeah.
And I loved that how there were some kids involved in people's homes, you know. You could see the kids on Zoom like wanting to hear and eager to learn. I mean, that's you know, that's exciting.
Definitely.
To see that something that you guys have created is influencing, you know, the next generation.
Yeah, and like at risk of sounding like a politician, like the children are our future, but in this setting, like we have a few years, a decade to get on top of the big issues with climate change and everything that we're facing as a society. And the children now are going to be the decision makers and the policy makers and the politicians of the future. So if I can just get one politician in the parliament that got excited about growing food, that'll be awesome for me, because then I know they're going to care about how food is grown in our country, and then from that, how energy is made and how it's transported and all that kind of flow and effect. So I think it's really important. Don't just preach to the converted and the people who already follow 1,000, you know, sort of wellness accounts and things like that. Let's get the kids involved. Let's get the mums and dads involved. And
there's a number of great things about that. Like, not everyone had grandparents growing veggie patches, right?
Totally.
And so we're giving that opportunity to children that might not have necessarily seen it or heard it or been a part of it. And the great thing is they'll probably challenge us and force us into better ways of doing it with their feedback, and getting children to give us feedback is the best. So I love that. I've seen that as part of the program as well. Cool. It's cool.
So I guess where does urban farming fit into the whole wellness spectrum, well-being, sustainability? I know urban farming is a bit of a new term, but basically it means, for me at least, because I sort of am an urban farmer, that's where I've cut my teeth, it's growing food in urban environments that's close to the population centers that will consume it. So how do you think that fits into like the modern sort of world kind of moving forward?
I think when you're talking there, what comes up for me is, you know, I believe we're living in this world of like consumer capitalism, where consumers are taking the power back. So if I think about, you know, just from a convenience point of view in the cities and where we live, like it's so easy, or has been easy, to go to like the supermarket, the Woolies, the Coles, whatever, and get the stuff we're getting. But when you look at the packaging and sustainability of that, like, people are getting more educated and realizing that actually that's probably not the best thing for me to be doing for the environment. And if you look at, I'm a big believer in just looking at the bigger landscape. Like, we've had floods, we've had fires, we've had pandemic, we've had all these things happen. And I think this rise of consumerism and like the power of consumers and where they put their money and what they choose to do, and the education that they're now getting, people are like, right, I have to make different choices. And climate change as well, you know, add that in to the mix, I think. So I feel as if people are now becoming more conscious. And urban farming is an actionable thing that people could get their heads around, because there's so many things that are being impacted. But, you know, I'm a big believer in just taking one step. You know, just take the first step. And this is urban farming is a first step to impact lots of other things.
Yeah, totally.
And so, I feel as if we're living in an age where people are now asking questions.
Yeah.
And they're saying, what can I do? What more can I do? And urban farming fits in with that.
Yeah,
That's
awesome.
and that's what happened to me. I was waking up thinking, what more can I do for my community? What more can I do for the planet? And I was saying to G, I take microgreens every day. In Arbonne, we have this product which is literally a scoop of microgreens, and that makes me feel amazing. So when I heard we were growing microgreens, I'm like, whoa, I can have more greens.
Yeah, cool.
Like Tony Robbins said, have more greens.
Yeah, totally.
So I was like, this makes sense. So not only is it one thing I'm already doing, but it prevents me from going to the supermarket and then getting more plastic, and then I can actually grow it. So I think it's just a nice actionable next step.
Okay.
In the bigger scheme of everything else going in the world.
Totally.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what urban growing has been for me. I started out, and I've said this in the early weeks of the course, I just wanted to grow some herbs on my windowsill. Right. And from there I did a course, and then all of a sudden I find myself planting 50 meters of lettuce seedlings and using a greenhouse, and then I'm over the world, and I'm planting an orchard in Texas, and and all this came from just starting small. So I think it's almost like, I like to call it like a gateway drug. Like urban farming, it sort of gets people back to the soil, and it sort of opens their world to sustainability and environmentalism in a real simple, easy way.
Yeah, totally makes sense.
Cool.
I love it.
So do you have any thoughts on urban farming yourself and things like that?
Yeah, I think what we spoke about before was community, and urban farming has that potential to really bring people and bring communities together. For the last technology age, people have been getting more separate and more lonely. Urban farming actually puts the dexterity back into our hands. We actually actively come out, enjoy the vitamin D of the sun, and learn about growing food, but also be connected to our food. And if we can grow together and we can consume it together later on, it brings us together as one. And I think there's lots of research that promotes the benefits of having like a broad social life and feeling supported by a community. So as greenery improves our well-being, so does being supported by a group. And urban farming might not deliver us the large volumes of food that we need to sustain everyone in the city, but the value is in the journey of the produce that will educate us, nurture us, bring us together, and then be organic and natural, and actually provide us with the right nutrients and the transparency, and it tells a story back to us about how it's grown, the struggles it's had, how it became stronger, and it connects us to nature, and from the moment we understand nature again, and which plants go together, which animals it attracts, we feel part of it again, and that feeling of belonging, that feeling of being part of the world we live in. It's just like
that's cool.
It just gives me a deep breed of makes me feel like taking a deep breath in and saying, it's all gonna be okay. We'll be alright. Like climate change, it might be coming our way, but if we do this, we're on a path. And we're on the way to the solution.
Yeah, cool.
Might not be solving it all in one day, but I think we're here on the couch. Coming together to
starting the conversation, and we're making inroads in whatever way we can. Awesome. That's cool.
Just keep stepping.
Keep stepping.
Next step.
Cool. So we've discussed a lot of really interesting, just broad kind of issues around wellness and well-being, sustainability. There's a lot of content out there, a lot of research, and sometimes it can be tricky to know where to start. So probably just what's the top 3 things you would sort of tell someone just to get where to start with, what to get involved with, how can they keep it simple and kind of start this kind of wellness sort of journey?
So the things that come to mind, I've mentioned this before, but the first thing is look at yourself first. So what are the things that feel good to you, and what are the things that don't? And I think it's good just to even document that, just write it down, what are the things in terms of me that feel good and don't feel good, and look at the habits between both of those. And then where I would start, that's where I would start. And then the second thing I would do is like what I teach and what I coach in Arbonne is we really focus on the mind, body and skin. So one of the things that we do is for 30 days we go through a program where we educate people on the types of foods that give you energy and the type of foods that don't. So I think that's a good place to start, because then for 30 days you can monitor, okay, these foods make me feel really good and these foods don't. So again, it's almost like researching yourself, or refinding yourself rather, could be another way.
Yeah.
So do that, and that's what I recommend people do for 30 days. I also add in microgreens, so like definitely having your greens, definitely adding in good nutrition, good food, because when you feel good and you feel confident and you have a bit of a reset, especially around your gut, because that's where a lot of issues happen, and I see that in a lot of people, and that's a very strong connection to the mind. So I would definitely start there, document how you're feeling, go through like some sort of program for 30 days and beyond that, and educate yourself, whether that's Arbonne, whether it's Farmall, whether it's whoever it is, but look to the people that you believe you could learn from, that you see as experts, that you're inspired by, that you are attracted to, and get advice from them and sort of do that. But I definitely, that's what changed my well-being, is when 3.5-4 years ago I literally decided to start eating the foods that made me feel good, and connect back to raw good food rather than processed stuff. Good nutrition, and then from there I started to make different decisions around the food that I would eat in restaurants. You know, like it's just like a follow-on effect. So I think there's got to be a complete sort of realization of where you're at, then choose to do something like a program or whatever it is, or get educated where you monitor the foods that make you feel good and don't feel good, and then continue that on. Like don't ever stop, just keep learning. For me, it's like I live by that 80-20. I was saying this to G earlier, like 80% of the time I stick to it, and then 20% of the time I'll have some fun. And and I think the last thing is just be mindful. So when you're consuming food, or you're wanting to eat something, just think in that moment, is this what my body needs? And then think about how you felt after, during and after, and before, during and after. And again, document that, and just it's almost taking a diary of how you feel. And the last thing would be, for overall well-being, is always focus on the mind. Like definitely nutrition, and definitely looking at what you're consuming gives you energy, but what are you consuming in your mind? You know, social media has become a platform, it's become our news. And sometimes that can be good or bad, depending on who you're following, what you're doing. So for me, I'm a big believer in feeding your mind with positive stories and positive things, because that leads to other sort of positive things rather than feeling quite down. And I believe when you've got that going on and you've got good food, then that just nourishes your soul. So that's what I'm all about, is again just a very holistic point of view. But that's where that would be my top tips.
Yeah, great. Yeah. I think really the big thing there is like just being mindful. What are you eating? What are you thinking about? What are you consuming mentally, physically? Who are you spending your time on? Who are you spending your time with? And then from that, I think you will start to grow healthy circles of friendships, healthy relationships with food, healthy relationship with the world around you, and how you interact with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Any thoughts on that one, G? Are they pretty good?
Yeah, just follow your bliss.
Yeah. Cool.
Really simple.
Nice and simple.
So you just summed up what I took 5 minutes to answer.
I'm going to go to this camera because we've had a few little quirks going on, but I think for me, the thing that started my journey on this was I started analysing my waste. And so once you realise what you're throwing out, it then starts, for me, it started as a cycle of, well, this had to get into my house or into my world somehow, because I made a decision as a consumer to purchase it or to get it from someone, and so I'm part of that cycle now. So I watched the ABC's War on Waste, which you haven't seen, I would highly recommend, and it just made me realize sort of everything about how we consume food, how it's produced, how it gets to our house, how we then dispose of it, and it completely revolutionized the way I live just by looking at the trash, basically. So
that's good.
Really simple, but for me it was quite life-changing, and now I'm that weirdo who comes to your house and I will put rubbish in the right bins if you've done it wrong. So if you ever invite me over, just get ready for that. But I have no shame now, and I use it as like a teaching moment. And I was like, look, I'm not trying to shame you. I'm just trying to show you this is going to go here. And your grandkids are going to be digging it up, and your great grandkids are going to be digging it up. Or we can choose to repurpose it, and it can go here instead. And it's been really powerful for me, and has helped actually start a really bigger journey into our whole agricultural system and how our food is grown and transported, and then how the energy is made to grow that food. And it's all from looking at my red trash bin. So
brilliant.
Yeah, there we go. So
you can come round your math place and
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that'll have a bonus prize one of the weeks. Send Farmer Luke round to your house. Yeah. Well, let's end it on a trashy note, I guess. Thanks for coming in for the interview, Michelle. It was really good.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks, G, for popping in and letting us hear your thoughts.
Yeah. Thanks for letting us sit on your couch.
Yeah, not many people get into the loft.
I can't believe we're in it.
Yeah, secret space right now. They had to cleanse before they came in, but we're okay.
It's a hand sanitizing station.
Yeah. I do have hand sanitizer at the front door, so we are clean. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and I hope you got something out of it. Jump into the Facebook group and the Zoom sessions, and we can chat more about it. But until next week, I'm Farmer Luke, and we'll see you on the farm soon.
Bye.